Pete Davidson is playing a Pete Davidson type of character. That's right, a sleep-deprived recreational narcotics user who does fuck all. That is, until he's forced into community service at an aged care facility. However, nothing is what it seems, and the creep factor is dialed up to 11. Get ready for some run-of-the-mill horror cliche bingo in The Home.
Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Boy Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. That's right, The Home, directed by James DeMonaco, known for directing 2 of the Purge movies and the comedy This Is the Night. We meet Max, a layabout drug user who wastes his time getting into trouble and taking drugs. So, Pete Davidson. We learn in a quick 5-minute montage exposition dumping that Max was a foster kid being brought up in a house full of other foster kids. However, he became extremely close with his older brother Luke, so you know nothing will probably ever bad happen to him. But wouldn't you know it? Older brother Luke goes off to college, and while he's there, Max learns at the tender age of 11 years old that Luke has self-deleted. This sets Max off on a path of criminal activity, and is constantly arrested for illegally tagging buildings. But his foster parents are having none of it! It's the final straw for them, and for Max to avoid jail time, they send him to community service, where he's sent to an aged care facility for 4 months to be the head janitor. And if he doesn't follow through with these 4 months, he gets sent straight to prison. Stakes! Of course, Max ends up at the creepiest looking dimly lit building of all time. He spends his days getting to know the kooky cast of characters, constantly hearing screams through the air vents, witnessing some kinky roleplay sexy times between some of the residents, night after night having morbid horrific nightmares, and is told to never go to level 4, which of course he totally listens to. But wouldn't you know it? Max says to himself, what the horror movie heck, and decides to venture up to level 4, which of course can only go well. What he finds is a room full of mentally unstable elderly people who like to self-mutilate. Of course, something doesn't feel right with Max. Everything has an unsettling vibration throughout the facility. And before you know it, residents start disappearing and or perishing in gory ways. A lot of plot conveniences do happen throughout the runtime to keep the story moving, and it all seems a little too convenient. We get a lot of build, then horror gory scene. Then again, build, then horror gory scene. It all feels a little bit too rinse and repeat and straight out of a horror movie playbook. However, I will say though that all of this is explained away when we get the twisty twist at the end. And I hope you're wearing a helmet with how heavy-handed this film is with its anti-boomer message. As subtle as a sledgehammer. That's right, Pete Davidson. You tell the audience how horrible boomers are while you're rich, popular, and famous for... what exactly? I'll be honest, throughout the runtime of this film, I was getting a little bored and just sort of waiting for the big reveal. And when we do get somewhat of a bum steer reveal towards the end, I was like, nah, fuck that, too easy and boring. But then we get the true big reveal at the end. And I don't think it completely saved the movie, but in hindsight, it was a lot more entertaining and fun. And I've got to say, the final act is absolutely bloody gore galore goodness. And it is extremely satisfying. Easily, that was the best part of the movie. Word of warning though, if you're not a fan of this subgenre of horror film of eye horror, probably sit this one out. And speaking of eyes, it was actually quite amusing that the film actually explained why Pete Davidson looks like he hasn't slept for 5 years. This film is like a less clever Get Out with a hint of Dr. Sleep with much more gore. Not absolutely terrible, but very forgettable. I wouldn't rush off to the cinema to see this one, maybe wait for streaming, which will probably be, in about 5 bloody minutes. Anyway guys, that's my cheeky little review of The Home. Write down below if you've seen it, what are your thoughts on it, but more importantly, what is your favourite lockdown facility horror? And of course, if you've made it this far in the episode, please give me a thumbs up because your love and support keeps me going because I just love movies, and I assume you do as well. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe icon because I give it an episode weekly. And I'll see you back here next week for the next review, but until then, stay spooky, kids.